Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining AAMI's HTM in a Box orientation. We are very excited to share this new tool with you all. I'm Danielle Smith, AAMI's Vice President of Healthcare Technology Management. And today, with me, I have two very seasoned HTM professionals who will be co-presenting HTM in a Box with me, Paul Kelly and Vicki Snyder. Paul Kelly is the Director of Biomedical Engineering in the Green Initiative at Washington Hospital for Washington Healthcare System. Paul is an AAMI board member, chair of the Technology Management Council, and was recently named an AAMI Fellow. Vicki Snyder has over 40 years experience in the HTM field. She's a member of the Technology Management Council Executive Committee, and both Paul and Vicki have received the Spirit of AAMI Award in the past. And both Paul and Vicki have done extensive work on this project. Before we get started, I just wanted to make everyone aware that this webinar is being recorded and will be available online on the HTM in a Box website after this presentation in the event anyone wants to watch it again or for anyone that missed this presentation. During the webinar, we will hold questions until the end, but please feel free to ask all your questions in the questions box on the lower right-hand side of the screen. Steve Campbell, AAMI's Chief Operating Officer, will be moderating the questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll gladly answer them all. Any questions we do not have time to get to, we will follow up with after the webinar. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to join the webinar today, and I hope you really find HTM in a Box a very useful and helpful tool when promoting the HTM field. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Kelly.
Good morning from California, and good afternoon if you're elsewhere. One of the biggest challenges in our field is that we're not well known outside of it. People are retiring because a lot of us got in at the same time, and we're all going to be retiring at the same time. So there's a gap. We need about 5,000 HTM professionals by 2022, while the HTM academic programs barely produce 400 a year. The AAMI board decided that to place promoting the field on the AAMI strategic plan because it's obviously a significant issue. And we're doing that in several ways, including the I Am HTM campaign, outreach to not only societies, but also things like Girl Scouts and other school-related programs, brochures, articles, and they've had articles been published with other industries who are also having shortage of employment. And we're looking at an apprenticeship program, if you haven't heard about that yet. And here's the latest way, the HTM in a Box. It's a virtual compilation of resources to help educate individuals about the HTM field. And this presentation will become the online tool that employers, educators, and others can use around the world to promote the HTM field for multiple age groups. It's on the AAMI website for all to use at www.aami.org/HTMINABOX. It was created by the AAMI Technology Management Council. Excuse me. It's online based. You cannot download it so that AAMI can measure statistics and everyone has the most current presentation. There's nothing worse than trying to get 1,000 people who downloaded a program to get them to update it before they present it. We found that it does not work with all versions of IE, Internet Explorer, and Google Chrome seems to work the best. So if you try to use it, try it first, make sure it works before you go to your presentation. You do not need to be an AAMI member to use it. We encourage you to go ahead and outreach to your coworkers, other people you know in the field, and we prefer people in the field because they understand what the topics are. It'll arm HTM professionals with a consistent and strong message and eliminates the work required to create a presentation. In the past, I think we've all been pressured into creating some sort of fun, interactive presentation for career fairs or school presentations, and this hopefully will solve that problem. And now here's what it'll look like. Danielle, can you show us?
Absolutely. Thank you for that introduction, Paul. So I am going to run through HTM in a box. So this is the landing page. When you click on the link from the HTM in a box website on our AAMI website, it'll bring you to Prezi, which is this screen. And you do not need to pay for Prezi to use this. It is free. And I just want to make sure that's clear. There are higher levels of Prezi that you can pay for, but you do not need that to run this presentation. So what is great about this presentation is when you get to the landing page, you see all three presentations on one page. So why is that important and why is that helpful to you? So if you're out presenting to a group of second graders using the middle school presentation about HTM, maybe there's teachers or parents in the room that have more adult-oriented questions about the field. You can quickly transition from the middle school presentation over to the college and beyond one that is very adult-oriented. And it ameliorates the need for you to carry around multiple PowerPoint presentations because everything is in one link and in one place, and it's all at your fingertips. So with that, I'm going to click on the middle school presentation. And this presentation is very basic. It's really meant for children. So if you're at a middle school and presenting to 7th or 8th graders, perhaps junior high age, you may want to consider using the high school presentation just because this one is very simplistic in a very high overview, where the high school presentation goes a little more in depth. So as we're looking through this presentation, you can see it has a very juvenile feel to it, bright colors, very flashy, and it, from a high level, really explains what healthcare technology management is. And in this presentation, we specifically align the field to a machine doctor because that's what children can really relate to. You know what doctors are. When people get sick, they make you get better. So when the equipment gets sick in the hospital or breaks, we're the machine doctors that fixes that medical equipment. So it's something children can easily relate to. You'll also see throughout these presentations that we've recycled and reused all of the IMHTM photos that you've seen in our campaign every Friday. On this page, we talk about that HTM professionals get to wear hard hats and scrubs. And while that sounds very simplistic, we found through people who have been out presenting to this age group that that's what they get excited about. They like to put things on, and the thought of putting on a blue bunny suit really makes them excited and gets their attention. Again, on the machine doctor approach, in this video, you'll see here, it links directly to this video. And this video is one of the winning videos from the video contest that we did for HTM Week last year. So you can see here, the vital sounds machine blows up, the technician comes in, turns into a superhero, and then he goes back to the HTM department and works and fixes it. And then he miraculously turns it back to the patient care room where it needs to be, and he did his job for the day. So it's a really fun and quick video just to, show to children that they can relate to. We also relate HTM in this presentation to things that middle schoolers would understand, such as problem solving, science, math. And then we go on to very simplistically explain what HTM professionals do. We work with cool equipment and help people get better. We help doctors and nurses solve problems to ensure patients are safer. And we have tons of fun every day. And then we talk about the BMET and clinical engineer, the two occupations within the HTM field, just very high level about what they do. at this age group, they're not really thinking about a career trajectory. So we do not mention the HTM manager or director because children at that age are very tactical and they just like to know what they're doing in that moment, and they're not thinking about career growth. If you have parents or teachers that are interested in what the next steps are, you can open up the high school or college presentation, and that goes into that. We also talk about how you can become a BMAT. So since they're middle schoolers, we talk about different high school options, skills you want to have, and what to do after high school as well. Same thing about the clinical engineer. We talk about, high school options, again, skills, and a 4-year engineering degree. And then at the end of the presentation, we bring them back to www.imhtm.org, which is always a great resource to tell to students or anyone that's interested in the field. It's a great page if you haven't checked it out, and they can also enter their name and email address if they'd like more information, and I follow up with them all individually. Moving on to the high school presentation, you can see now the whole facade of this is very more mature, not as juvenile looking. We worked in the fiber optic cables and some pictures of cooler technology. So now instead of talking about being machine doctors, we're relating HTM to being the backstage personnel at a rock concert, making sure all the equipment's ready for showtime when the patients and clinicians need it most, something that high school students can really relate to. Now we talk more in depth about what HTM professionals do. And in the high school presentation, we really don't talk about the C-suite at all. While that makes us all proud and happy, many high school students don't really even begin to understand that a hospital is a business, and being able to commiserate with the C-suite really doesn't mean much to them at that age. So again, that's something we talk more about with the adult presentation. We also talk about why HTM. We have some statistics in here about the medical device industry and how it's projected to grow and how that correlates to the HTM profession growing. Talk about job security. Children want to know that they're going to get a job when they get out of school. And one thing that we specifically mention in this presentation is that HTM professionals are needed everywhere, because for many high school students, it's the thought of moving away is scary, or some kids just want to move away and get away. So wherever there's a hospital, there's a job for you, and there's also plenty of positions out there that also require travel for those people who want that. So your options are really endless, and we want to make sure that that's really apparent to the people that we're presenting to. Again, we talk about the biomedical equipment technician, their job duties, how you become a BMAT, so what you want to start thinking about after you graduate high school, joining the military, studying electronics or biomedical technology at a university or community college, volunteering in a HTM department. Same thing with the clinical engineer. We talk about their job duties and how you can become one after high school. So a 4-year engineering degree, again, volunteering at a high school, volunteering in an HTM department. And we also, in this presentation, now work in the HTM manager and director to show that there is a career trajectory and growth within the field. The working environment slide is very different. We touch upon that we work on everything from otoscope ophthalmoscopes all the way to MRIs and virtual reality and robots, and that we work everywhere in the hospital alongside clinicians. The day in the life of an HTM professional, this slide was created to kind of walk anyone through what a typical day is like. So we start following up with trouble calls from the day before. Then we go to a morning safety meeting with hospital leadership. At 10 a.m., we round the hospital to see how everyone's equipment's working. At 12, a water pipe broke in the OR, and we need to go save the equipment and help them out. At 1 p.m., we go to an emergency management meeting to discuss the flood and next steps. At 2 p.m., we go to a project meeting for a brand new state-of-the-art ER that's being designed. At 3 p.m., we document all our work and close out our trouble calls, and at 3:30, we call it a day. One thing to really particularly note for this slide, that whether you're a clinical engineer, BMAT, or an HTM manager or director, you will have these events all apply to you. What you may do in response to the event may differ depending upon your position, but you will have a role in this no matter what position you hold within an HTM department. So that's why we picked these particular events, since they were relatable to everyone. And again, we just reinforce that we're helping others while making a meaningful difference in everyone's lives. Every day is different. And we have another video. Again, this one is not as useful. So that video is obviously very different from the one in the middle school presentation. And just a fun fact about the video when you're out presenting it is that that track, the music, is made of 100% of medical device sounds. There was nothing else added into it. It was we went and recorded sounds at the VA in Washington, D.C., and a person on our staff went and mixed it and made that track. So it is comprised 100% of medical device sound. So I just thought that was really neat and something to share with you all. And finally, we talk about HTM is perfect for people who, have these attributes. And again, we end back at the ending page at www.imhtm.org. Finally, the college and beyond presentation. This is any adult or even a senior in high school. And this is geared towards people who might be in an electronics program where we want to tell them, hey, there's other options besides, maybe you don't want to go into photocopier repair. Working on medical equipment in the hospital is a very awesome career, and this is an option available to you. Same thing with biomedical engineering students enrolled in engineering programs. You want to make sure that they're aware that you just don't have to go into a lab or research and development. You can work on the front lines of healthcare working with medical technology every single day. And this is also geared for career changers as well. Someone that may have lateral skills that would be perfect to make an HTM professional with some training. So again, this page is pretty much the same. I'm going to go through this quickly because it's the college and beyond presentation is very similar to the high school presentation with just a few minor changes. Here we talk about disaster planning and risk management in this presentation a little bit more. We also in here in the different occupations, the BMET clinical engineer and directors, we add in the median salaries. This was all taken from the 2019 24/7 salary survey. And part of having this online is that each year we will update the salaries according to that survey. So you'll always have the latest up-to-date salary information. Again, we talk about how you can become a BMET, if you're already in college or if you're a career changer. We talk about here, there's a slide about related fields and degrees. So if you work in any of these occupations, HTM may be a great career change option for you if you are looking for a career change. Again, the clinical engineer, we added in the median salary, talked about ways to get involved, industry or government based on the job training opportunities, graduate degrees. And the same thing with the HTM manager and director. We added in the salary. We talk about how they're a direct liaison to hospital administration and the C-suite. And we also added in a slide for professional certifications. To some people, choosing a field that allows for professional certification is really important to them. So this slide is really to not go in any more in depth than just really letting people know that professional certification is available to them in the field. And we also listed the certified clinical engineer as well through the American College of Clinical Engineering. That one is not through AAMI, but it is a certification for the field. So we wanted to include it just to promote all certifications everywhere. The working environment here, again, this is pretty similar. We purposely added in a slide to show all the different types of equipment for people who are visual. Here, the day in the life slide is the same as in the high school presentation. This slide is pretty much the same as well. The video is the same. We may look at adding a different video later, but right now they are the same. So I'm not going to play it again. And then HTM is perfect for people who love fixing things, want to learn something new every day, and want a job where no 2 days are the same. And that is the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Vicki, who will tell us some more about HTM in a box.
Thank you, Danielle. Before I go to the next steps discussion, just a reminder for folks that if you have any questions in the lower right, you can add those when we come to the question and answer session. We will address those, and if we don't get to those today, we will definitely follow up with you to get you an answer for those. With regard to the HTM in a box presentation, just a reminder, this can be found at the www.aami.org/HTMINABOX. And this, I know a lot of folks are already starting to use this. We're hearing a lot of good feedback about it, which is great. Just so you know, there are going to be some tools that are going to be coming along to help you out there in the field when you're doing presentations. There's going to be some talking points that are in development that will aid presenters who may not be comfortable talking on the fly. There's going to be some scripts for cold calling schools to give presentations. Those will be coming, some suggestions for some age-specific hands-on labs, demonstrations for career days, and so forth. In addition, we just want you guys to know, to remind you, AAMI does have a list of specific schools by state online. It's under aami.org/professional development. You can find that list. Just so you guys are aware, though, the list does not include general electronics or biomedical engineering degrees there, so I want to make sure you know that. As well, when you're out doing presentations, if you need more HTM career brochures, AAMI has those, and they are happy to send those to you, so you can distribute those to any of the folks that you're doing presentations to. Just let Danielle know how many, and she'll get those to you. I think one of the things that I want to speak to around this presentation is that, you know, AAMI and the technology management team has done a great job in putting this together. And we talked about, you know, the challenges that we have here, but this takes more than just AAMI to do this and get the word out about the field. It takes all of us. And I think it's really important that everybody takes this on as a way to start promoting the field, either within their organizations, within the schools that they're working with, within the associations they're working with, and developing strategic plans about how they're going to use it. And I think in the end, I think it's just important. It's everybody's responsibility for the future of the field, and that we would like to see everybody getting creative and innovative and to act now in helping promote this particular tool as well as our field. And with that, I'm going to turn it, I believe, back to Paul, correct?
Is it to me, or is it time for questions?
It is probably time for questions. I didn't know. Next step. Sorry, Paul.
Okay.
And just one other thing to add, the school listing that Vicki mentioned is also on at www.aami.org/HTM in a box as well.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, Danielle. This is Steve Campbell, AAMI COO. So I'll be fielding the questions. Please submit yours if you have any. And the first one, Paul, if you want to take a stab at this, and then Vicki and Danielle can weigh in. Paul, how do I find opportunities to present about HTM in my area?
Good question. I think most everybody has schools around them. You can check with schools. You can check with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. There are college days, local colleges. Look in your paper and watch for events in the area. in my hospital, we sponsor a medical explorers group, and we participate in a career fair they have. So there are a lot of opportunities. Just keep your eye out.
Great. Vicki or Danielle, do you want to add anything to that?
I think, the associations, if you're involved in any association, they can help connect up with all the different resources too. I think they're kind of a key in all of this, in promoting and trying to find out all the different locations and places you can connect to.
And also, there's other associations you could possibly partner with, like if your local college has a biomedical engineering society, that would be a great organization to get involved with and give a presentation about HTM. There's also another group called HOSA, H-O-S-A, and they are an association that partners with high schools and high schoolers that are interested in degrees in the medical field. So it's very broad, but it's an opportunity, and they have branches in every single state. So it's definitely another way. But a lot of this is really going to take us reaching out as a field and taking that initiative to reach out to schools, because since many people aren't aware that HTM is a profession, they're not going to come asking for us to present about it because they don't know we exist. So it's going to take some leveraging and pushing on our end to really get in on those career days, STEM days, and so on, and other opportunities. And again, if you don't feel comfortable cold calling or cold emailing a school or an association, we will have a script put online that you can use, and hopefully you'll find that helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you, Danielle. Question, maybe Danielle could take this one. Is there a downloadable version that does not require internet connectivity? You addressed this, but do you want to explain a little bit more?
Sure. Unfortunately, there isn't. The whole point of Prezi is to have an online presentation. So you will need internet, and you have to present it from the Prezi website. And the reason why we do that is because AAMI wants to be able to measure the reach and impact this tool is having. So every time this presentation is used, we're aware of it, and we know how long you've used it for. And actually, the first time you log on to it, it will ask you to list your first, last name, and email address. And it really allows us to track the reach. So, we may be able to look, and why is that important? So we may be able to see, hey, well, there's a ton of presentations going on in Texas, California, and Colorado, but in the middle of the country, in Nebraska, North and South Dakota, we've really made no penetration, and there's been no presentations in that area. So we can go back and know what areas of the country or the world that we need to target better. Also, since we will be updating these and changing them, we don't want people to be working with outdated presentations. And so I can make an update right now, and now everyone has that update at their fingertips in the latest and greatest presentation. And also, it's just not an option that Prezi offers for the free version. So we apologize for that, but hopefully that's not a huge obstacle for you.
Okay, terrific. Another question, Danielle, this is also probably up your alley. Where do I find the colleges that offer degrees for BMETs in clinical engineering on the AAMI website? Where is it on the AAMI website?
Yep, so the latest and greatest list is on the HTM in a box page. So www.aami.org/HTM in a box. And that list is there. You can click on the link on the page, and it's a PDF, and you can print it or download it to your computer.
This is Paul. Danielle, if people find a school or somewhere they know of that's missing from there, how do they get it added?
Yes, so please email us. So you can, and I will send my contact information, but anyone can feel free to email me at dmcgeary, MCGEARY @aami.org. and we'll happily add the school on there. Or if there's anything else you need, including, pamphlets for your career day, please just email me and we will take care of you.
Great. I'm sorry to give Danielle another question, but was the way they're coming in. And can you tell me a little bit more about the apprenticeship program mentioned at the beginning of the presentation?
Sure. So AAMI is working with the Department of Labor to file a formal apprenticeship for BMATs. This is an alternate solution. For areas where there are no HTM specific academic programs, or maybe for career changers that going back to school is not an option for them, or really for anyone that's interested in the BMAT occupation. So we are in the process of developing a curriculum which will be filed with the Department of Labor. It'll be a 2-year program. That'll be a combination of competency-based and education-based. It will require the apprentice to have 144 hours of education each year, so 288 hours total, along with a huge slew of competencies that align with AAMI's core competency guide. And it will also set apprentices up to pass the CBET exam. So all the competencies and areas that we're focusing on are areas that are also tested in the CBET test. So for successful completion of the BMAT apprenticeship, you will need to pass the CBET test, just the test, because we realize that some of them may not have the years of work experience to get the full certification. But once they do get the years of experience, they will become a CBET. What's really great about it is that you get a formal certificate through the Department of Labor that shows that you are competent. And really what this does is ameliorate the challenges that we're facing. A lot of hospitals are forced to train people from the ground up that have no experience. And this really brings a metric of quality to that training, because we know that it's consistent and they are all meeting the core competencies that BMATs need to work safely, efficiently, and effective in a healthcare institution. So they will get their certificate at the end. It's on file with the Department of Labor that they did this for the rest of their lives. And what's really great about it too is that for the apprentice, the hospital or the employer has to pay for all of their education. So they get on-the-job experience in work while getting some education in the field as well. In some states, and it varies from state to state, will fund that education. So it may not even come out of the hospital's pocket that's funding the apprentice as well. But again, that varies from state to state. But we hope to launch that in 2020. We hope it's another way to combat the workforce challenge and ensure that our BMATs are properly trained and skilled. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But thank you for the question. We're very excited about it.
Thank you. This could go to any one of you. What's the best way to make time to get a school to grant you the time to present? How do you make the pitch? Who wants to field that?
The best time? Well, it depends. This is Vicki. During school time usually is the best. So in the fall through springtime, because a lot of schools are off in the summer. Not all of them, but a lot are. And reaching out to find out who might be the dean of the electronics department, and they can get you to the right person that you can talk to, and at least start the conversation. But at least I find that's when they're generally in session. I know when I've called our local advisor, they're out of the office a lot, so that would be my suggestion.
Any other comments? Okay. This one will probably go to Danielle, at least initially. Do you believe that there's any way that we could earn CEUs or recertification by presenting at schools or career fairs?
I will have to follow up with the ACI board about that, but technically giving any HTM education is worth 2 CEUs per hour. So if they will count that as providing HTM education, then yes, it would. So I will follow up with the ACI board and get an exact answer. But that is an excellent question.
Great. I think you've already touched on this issue, but I'll ask it since it was asked. Is there a way to personalize the content to my area? So we've already talked about that it's on the internet, but can anyone personalize it beyond what we have on our website?
So no, Amy is the owner of this content and we're the only ones that can update it. The way you can personalize it is through your speech. So you can bring supplementary materials. You can bring the school listing. So if you're in the state of Kansas, you can print out the schools for Kansas. You can tell personal stories to align with the slides. In that way, but no, you can't go in and change it to have your hospital's logo or a picture of your staff or something like that. Because if we make a change, everyone sees it. So there would really be no way unless we had like 1,000 different presentations, which would be way too much to manage.
And this problem, what you could also do is have a supplemental presentation like a PowerPoint or something, and then stop at the HTM in a box and show your slides of your hospital or you guys, and then flip back to here. And if you practice that a few times, the public, the people you're presenting to probably won't even notice it was something different.
Yeah, and the point of these presentations is to be fast. So if you notice, there's not a ton of slides. So really the length of the slides in the presentation is how you choose to present it. So I lacked to mention this during the presentation, but for middle school students, you're not going to have their attention for a long amount of time. So you want to make sure that the presentation doesn't get very lengthy and boring to them. So it's quick and fast.
Okay. Next question. What can I advise to high schoolers to be the most direct way to become a BMET? What can I advise to high schoolers to be the most direct way to become a BMET? This could really go to anyone in the group who wants to field it.
So if somebody's interested in the career, I mean, there's ways that they can be reaching out in the meantime to learn more about it, either job shadowing at the hospitals, volunteering, things like that. I can't think of anything else right now, Paul or Danielle.
So I would say the most direct way to kind of echo what Vicky's saying is that we are in such a need for people right now that it is really the responsibility of the hospitals to want to take volunteers and students and help educate them. And I know a lot of hospitals are short-staffed, so it's like the chicken or the egg. You may not have time to take on a student, but if we don't do it, we aren't building the future of HTM. So there needs to be a happy medium. So hopefully, if someone is very interested, there would be a local hospital that would be willing to even let them spend a day there just to kind of get a taste of it. But the most direct way, I would say, is pursuing a degree in biomedical technology if there's one near you. I mean, I'm not sure where you're located, but we can look at the list and see if there's schools near you. If not, a 2-year degree in electronics would also be a way to get in there. There's a lot of electronics programs near you, or the military is also a great option if they're accepted into the BMET school. They have to have a very high ASVAB score to be placed in that program, but that's also another pathway into the field.
Okay, next question. If a student expresses interest in HTM based on this presentation, what do I tell them to do next?
I would direct them to www.imhtm.org, have them put in their information, and we'll happily follow up with them and answer any questions they may have. And I would also, I mean, it really depends what age group they're in, but if they're a middle school student, for instance, they may want to maybe look at a technical or trade high school for electronics or a STEM high school. If they're in high school, you would want to either direct them, depending if they want to be a clinical engineer, it would be a 4-year engineering degree, mechanical, electrical, or biomedical, or the BMAT, it would be a 2-year electronics, biomedical equipment technology, or BMAT program. Or again, the military is an option, and eventually we will have the apprenticeship as well, if it's a career changer or someone where college is not an option for them. And I would always recommend reaching out to the local hospital's HTM department to see if there's an opportunity for them to volunteer, because experience is just invaluable.
Okay, terrific. You mentioned earlier that there would be talking points to help present. What else will be in HTM in a box beyond this presentation? In the talking points, yeah.
So I'm not sure of the question, but it sounds like what they're asking is what's going to be in the talking points. And if that's the case, what we're trying to do, and we're still early on this, is come up with some of the bullet points that you might want to cover per slide, because a lot of people, some people are going to be more outgoing and look at the slide and be able to talk about it for 2 hours, and other people are going to look at it and say, read exactly what's on it. And what we're going to come up with is like some bullet points per slide, just to kind of get the juices flowing on what you're doing. If you mean the website, I think Danielle has talked about, we'll have this presentation, we'll have the schools, we'll have the talking points, we'll have the cold call script up there. And if there's anything else, Danielle, jump in.
No, I wasn't clear on the question either, but that's how I would have answered it. And this webinar will also be on the HTM in a Box site too, for anyone to rewatch it in addition. So any resources or materials that go along with this will be on the HTM in a Box page on the AAMI website. Everything, it'll be your one-stop shopping for this whole HTM in a Box suite.
Terrific. This is a comment, not a question. A comment from an attendee. A great way to get involved in community college or technical school is to get on their advisory board. That has worked well for us. Any comments?
Absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that.
I would agree as well. There's another recently during one of our association meetings here locally, some high schools have what are called career and technology education boards. I know some of our members have been getting on those boards at the high schools, and it's a great way to bring HTM and what we do to those high schools so that they know more about that career as well. I just wanted to mention that, because that was something new that I didn't know about till recently.
Great. Someone mentioned earlier that there's no cost to Prezi. Is there any cost whatsoever for this presentation?
No.
Well, that was short and sweet. Thank you. Okay. What else is being done beyond HTM in a Box and the apprenticeship program to promote HTM professionals into the field?
So this is Paul. I'll jump in on that for a minute. So we've talked about some of them. There is not only this and the apprenticeship, there is a brochure that AAMI periodically updates that it's a nice glossy brochure that you can hand out at events. You can hand it out wherever you want. There have been several press releases and news articles that have been done, including one with, I believe it was the landscaping industry, through some national press, because both of the fields are suffering low new employees, if you will. We've created the whole I Am HTM campaign, which has been award-winning, if you hadn't noticed. There's, of course, the I Am HTM website, and just a lot of resources, because AAMI sees a significant point. Anything you want to add?
And we also partnered with the American School Counselors Association, and that's the National Association for School Guidance Counselors. So we did take out ads in their magazines to advertise for the HTM field and our need for people. And we also had a table at their national conference in Boston this year, and we plan to be at their national conference again next year. We've also done multiple Girl Scout days. And in last year, we actually released an article that was part of USA Today about our field, talking about how as technology grows, so does careers in the HTM profession. So we've really done a lot of outreach. It's really one of our top strategic priorities, and we're really trying to make an impact and a difference with that.
I knew I was forgetting that counselor one. And I would add, if any of you have more ideas and other avenues, let us know. Send a note to Danielle.
Thank you, Paul.
And just one more comment on that. For large events, if you're going to a career day that has thousands of people, AAMI is always willing to partner with you and be there. We obviously can't fly to every high school in the country, or we wouldn't fly out for you to present to like 10 or 20 people. But for events that have large impacts, we're happy to support you and be there with you. So please just let us know. And if we're unavailable to attend, we're happy to send you the career brochures that Paul mentioned. And we actually just updated the career brochure this week. So it's going to be hot off the press, and we hope you all like it.
You mentioned that there were a few changes between the high school and adult versions of HTM in a Box. They look very similar. What are the differences again?
Sure. So the biggest differences between the high school and college and beyond is that the college and beyond presentation has the salaries in it. And it also has a slide about certification, and it has a slide about lateral careers. It also touches a little bit more about the manager and director positions, and talks more about the C-suite, commiserating with them and working with them, just because that's more appropriate to that age demographic.
Great. This is a question, I think I know the answer, but Danielle will probably is in the best position to answer this. Have you considered creating a video version of HTM in a Box? I think the implication is, if someone is not a good presenter or doesn't like to present, would there be a version that could be used that would have audio that would supplement the HTM in a Box?
No, we have not done that, simply because, and the group had talked about this, and we don't want people just sending the video off and not actually going and presenting themselves. We've basically done a lot of work, and the only step that the field needs to take is really just getting into the school and doing that. And having someone live there is a lot more meaningful than just sending off a video. So we did not do it for that reason.
Okay. Another question. Not everyone on my staff is an AAMI member. Can they use HTM in a Box?
Yes, it is free to everyone, regardless if you are a member or not. We made it just, for the betterment of the field.
And would you explain, Danielle, how HTM in a Box was created, just briefly? I think Paul referenced it earlier that it was created by the Technology Management Council, but could you explain what went into the thinking about what content was included and not included?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, Vicki and Paul, who are on the call today, were part of the committee that created this, and they spent a lot of time working with us to create this product. And I wanted to thank everyone who was on that helped contribute to this, because AAMI is really based, what we do is really the result of all of our volunteers. For those of you who aren't aware, the HTM department is comprised of myself and Jim Pipenbrink, and he's detailed with me 50% of the time. So many people think we're a large organization, but we're really not. What you see is really, we do it all, from the strategic planning all the way down to the tactical tasks. And a lot of people don't realize that. So if it wasn't for the help of all of our generous volunteers with their time, we wouldn't have a lot of the products that we have. So first and foremost, I want to thank everyone on the call who has helped or volunteers with Amy or worked with me in some shape and form, because you definitely all have a significant impact to the field. So the Technology Management Council is a group of HTM leaders who apply to this committee and get selected to be on it. And the committee itself is comprised of 27 people. Many of the projects that we do come from subgroups of the TMC. So in this case, we created a subgroup of 7 people from the Technology Management Council that really gave a lot of input into this. So those 7 people, we all met multiple times. They provided extensive feedback about what should go in this presentation in each of the different aged presentations. And we created it, sent it back to the group. They gave more critical feedback. It was reviewed numerous times. And we finally got to this stage. Once we got a product that was what we felt was presentable, then we sent it over to Amy's marketing and editing team, had them review it, and then here we are. And now we're out just trying to promote it, getting the field's feedback. I've been out, and a lot of my colleagues have been out at the local HTM associations presenting this in all different areas of the country, trying to gain interest, excitement, and really spreading the word about how important outreach is, and sharing awareness about this tool, and trying to motivate people to spread the word about this and go out and do HTM presentations to today's youth. So that's really how we got where we are. And for next steps, we're going to keep pushing this hard and hopefully spread awareness. We'll update the presentation as necessary. And I know Vicki talked about the next steps. You'll be seeing some talking points, some cold calling scripts on the website, and some other resources as well. So thank you for the question.
Okay, I think we have just another few minutes, so I think we can squeeze these 2 questions in. The problems with the workforce shortage has existed for several years now, and AAMI and other organizations have sought to bring more visibility to the field. Is there any way to gauge whether we're making a difference?
Absolutely. So it's very hard. That's a very hard metric to measure. So if you present to an 8-year-old now, it'll be 10 years before they're graduating high school and have to decide what they want to do as a career. So the lasting impact is going to be hard to measure. But what we can measure are our visits to the IMHTM website, because if we're gaining interest, people are going to go there to learn more. And also through HTM in a Box. So every time it's opened and every time it's used, Prezi tracks it all, and it tracks how often it's being used, and we can figure out also where it's being used. And Prezi also lets us dive deeper to see what slides are mostly used. So for instance, if we looked at, let's just say HTM in a box was viewed 100 times and 90 times the high school presentation was used, we can show that we're making a huge penetration into the high school age demographic, but then we can decide, well, wait, we need to focus more on the middle school and college and beyond areas as well. So we can kind of measure it that way. And that's really one of the main ways that we can measure impact and reach. And also, just to follow up on that video question, I don't know if you were so much, if the question was geared towards filming HTM in a box specifically, but if you're just looking for videos about the field, AAMI has a bunch of those on our website already. And if you shoot me an email, I'd be happy to send you the links of the videos already created that explain the field. So I just wasn't sure exactly what you were asking about, but if you're just looking for videos about the field, we have them and we're happy to share them.
Terrific. And last question, which seems like a good way to conclude, is I came in late to the webinar. How can I go about getting the recording?
Yep, so this recording will be on the HTM in a Box webpage. So www.aami.org/HTM in a box, and it'll be posted there within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. That's all the time we have for questions, so I turn it back to you.
Well, thank you everyone so much again for joining today. We really hope you find HTM in a Box a very useful, impactful, and helpful resource. If you're out in the field doing presentations, please post on social media, tag us in your posts, and please use the hashtag #IamHTM. We want to see all of your outreach, and we really want to see the impact that you all are making. So thanks for joining today. Joining today is the first step in helping to promote the field, and thanks for all you do every day to promote our profession. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.